The awakening. Frost melted from the curved glass of the stasis pod as emergency lighting flickered to life throughout the silent chamber. The massive facility, buried deep within Titan's icy crust, had remained dormant for longer than most civilizations had existed. Condensation dripped from metal bulkheads as environmental systems engaged for the first time in 500,000 years. Revival sequence initiated, announced Atlas, the central AI system. Time elapsed since shutdown, 499,627 years, 241 days, 13 hours, beginning revival of command personnel. The first pod hissed as its seal broke. Inside, Captain Eleanor Walsh gasped violently as her lungs filled with air for the first time in 500 millennia. Her body convulsed with the shock of reanimation, muscles contracting painfully as warmth returned to her limbs. "Status report," she rasped, her throat raw from disuse. "Revival successful, Captain," Atlas responded, its synthesized voice echoing through the chamber. "Your vital signs are stabilizing, cognitive functions appear intact." Eleanor tried to sit up, but her body refused to cooperate. She glanced around the chamber with blurry vision, watching as the other pods began their revival sequences. The second pod opened to reveal Dr. Nikolai Petrov, Chief Medical Officer, his pale face contorted in discomfort as consciousness returned. "Did we succeed?" he asked weakly. Is this?" "Confirmation of mission timeline complete," Atlas stated. "Current date by Old Earth calendar, September 28, year 500, 2735. Mission status, Stage 1 complete, fleet preservation achieved. Now initiating Stage 2, reconnaissance and assessment." Dr. Petrov's face drained of what little color it had. "Everyone we knew." "Everyone is dust," Eleanor finished quietly, "just as we expected." The remaining pods opened in sequence. Commander Gyro Tanaka, tactical officer, emerged next, followed by Chief Engineer Valerie Hassan, Communications Specialist Damon Wright, and finally Science Officer Octavia Reynolds. Each awakening followed the same pattern: confusion, disorientation, and then the crushing realization of their place in time. Commander Tanaka was the first to regain enough strength to stand, bracing himself against his pod. "Fleet status." "Operational," Atlas reported. 93% of vessels preserved at optimal capacity. 7% show system degradation. Repair protocols active. Eleanor closed her eyes as memories flooded back. The final days of humanity, the Voidar invasion, the systematic extermination of humans across every colony and outpost. Earth itself burning. "Show me the last transmission," she ordered. A holographic screen materialized in the center of the room. The image showed Admiral Jo, her weathered face illuminated by emergency lighting, her uniform torn and bloodied. Behind her, fires consumed what had once been the final human settlement on Mars. "This is Admiral Jo of the Earth Defense Force," she began, her voice steady despite the chaos. "This will be our final transmission. The Voidar have breached our last defenses. To anyone receiving this in the distant future, we existed. Humanity existed, and our final act is not surrender but patience." The Admiral looked directly into the camera. "Captain Walsh, if you're watching this, then Project Nemesis worked. You are what remains of humanity's vengeance. The Voidar believe they have won. Let them believe that for 500,000 years. Let them build their empire on the ashes of our people. And then, when they have forgotten even the shape of a human face, when we are nothing but myths, wake up." The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in silence. 500,000 years, Engineer Hassan murmured. "The solar system will have changed, the galaxy itself." "Physics hasn't changed," Science Officer Reynolds said, her voice gaining strength. "And neither has our mission." Eleanor pushed herself to a sitting position, gritting her teeth against the pain. "Atlas, begin full system activation. Prepare the command center. We need to know what we're facing." "Processing, Captain," the AI responded. "Activating deep space sensors, initiating stealth protocols. The Voidar must not detect our awakening." As the crew slowly regained mobility, Dr. Petrov administered revival medications to ease their transition. Their bodies had been preserved through revolutionary technology, but no human had ever experienced such a long period in stasis. They were, in every sense, prehistoric creatures awakening in a future world. Specialist Wright made his way to a control panel and began running diagnostics. The quantum network is intact. We can communicate with the fleet without detection. How many ships? Tanaka asked. 12,457 vessels, Atlas answered. From stealth fighters to planetary siege weapons, all constructed and hidden before humanity's fall. All awaiting your command, Captain. Eleanor stood shakily, accepting Dr. Petrov's support. Show me Earth. A new hologram appeared, displaying their homeworld as it currently existed. The crew fell silent at the sight. The blue planet they had known was transformed. Massive structures covered entire continents, strange cities sprawled across once familiar landscapes, and in orbit, thousands of alien vessels moved in ceremonial patterns. The Voidar have made Earth their shrine, Reynolds observed quietly. A monument to our extinction. They celebrate their genocide, Tanaka said, his voice hardening. Eleanor watched the hologram, her expression unreadable. Atlas, begin full awakening of fleet AI systems. Prepare crew training updates. We've been asleep for 500,000 years. We need to understand what we're facing. And then, Hassan asked. Eleanor turned to face her crew, the last humans in existence. And then we remind the galaxy why the Voidar feared us enough to try to wipe us out. They thought they succeeded. They've had 500,000 years to build their civilization on that belief. Her eyes hardened. Now we show them their mistake. 3 months after awakening, the command crew gathered on the bridge of the Nemesis, flagship of humanity's hidden fleet. Through the viewscreen, space stretched before them, deceptively unchanged despite the eons that had passed. Status report, Eleanor said, her voice stronger than it had been during those first confused days. All systems operational, Engineer Hassan replied. The stealth technology is functioning beyond expectations. We've passed within scanning range of 2 Voidar outposts without detection. Eleanor nodded. The fleet's technology had been cutting edge when they entered stasis, but the autonomous factories hidden throughout Saturn's rings had continued to evolve and improve their designs for centuries before going dormant. The ships they now commanded represented the pinnacle of human innovation, technology developed without constraint, designed for one purpose only: survival. Any update on galactic political structure? Eleanor asked. Communications specialist Wright looked up from his console. The Voidar dominate approximately 70% of the known galaxy. They've subjugated at least 15 other species. Their empire is vast but not without resistance. There are rebellion movements, particularly in the Orion Spur. Potential allies, Tanaka suggested. Perhaps, Wright answered, but they're scattered and disorganized. The Voidar have been the dominant power for over 300,000 years. Science Officer Reynolds approached with a data tablet. Captain, I've completed my analysis of their communication patterns. The Voidar language has evolved, but their basic protocols remain similar enough for our systems to decrypt. What have you learned? Eleanor asked. Their civilization is built on a foundation myth, the story of their rise to power through what they call the Great Purification, Reynolds explained. The extermination of humanity is central to their cultural identity. They believe it proved their superiority and right to rule. Eleanor's jaw tightened. They're proud of what they did to us. More than proud, Reynolds continued. They've elevated it to religious significance. Earth is now a pilgrimage site. The anniversary of humanity's supposed final extinction is their most sacred holiday. Dr. Petrov, who had been listening silently, spoke up. We need to understand them better, see them up close. Intercepted transmissions can only tell us so much. Eleanor turned to him. What are you suggesting? An infiltration mission, he replied simply. We have the technology. The biological reconstruction systems were designed for this purpose. Commander Tanaka frowned. It's too risky if we're discovered. If we're discovered, nothing changes, Petrov interrupted. They already believe they killed us all, but we need intelligence that can only be gathered by direct observation. Elinor considered this for a long moment. Who would go? "I will," said a voice from the doorway. All heads turned to see Intelligence Officer Marcus Fletcher entering the bridge. Of all the revival crew, he had spoken the least since awakening, focusing instead on absorbing and analyzing information about the changed galaxy. "I've been studying their physical appearance, social structures, and behavioral patterns," Marcus continued. "The biological reconstruction chamber can modify my appearance temporarily. I can pass as a minor species within their empire, one with access to their outposts but not important enough to attract attention." Elinor studied him carefully. This wasn't part of the original mission parameters. "The original parameters were created 500,000 years ago," Marcus replied evenly. "We need current information to execute our vengeance effectively." After a day of heated debate, Elinor approved the mission. The Nemesis positioned itself near a remote Voidar outpost, a trading station where various subjugated species were permitted limited movement. The biological reconstruction process was painful but successful. Marcus's human features were temporarily altered to match those of the Luthian, a species conquered by the Voidar only 25,000 years ago, recent enough that they were still permitted some freedom of movement. "The transformation will last approximately 12 days, Dr. Petrov explained as Marcus examined his new appearance. His skin now had a silvery sheen with ridge-like patterns along his neck and temples. "After that, your human DNA will reassert itself." Marcus nodded, testing his altered vocal cords. "That's plenty of time." The infiltration went smoothly. Using a small transport vessel captured months earlier, Marcus entered the Voidar outpost with identification codes crafted by Specialist Wright. For 8 days, he moved among the Voidar and their subject peoples, gathering information impossible to obtain from intercepted transmissions. On the 9th day, Marcus stood in a vast hall within the outpost, surrounded by Voidar civilians and warriors. They were taller than humans had been, with iridescent blue-black skin and vertical pupils in eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light, an evolutionary advantage that had helped them become apex predators. A public announcement system called for attention as a high-ranking Voidar official took the central platform. "Tomorrow marks the eve of ascension," the official announced, his voice carrying through the hall. 500,000 years ago, our ancestors completed the Great Purification, freeing the galaxy from the poison of humanity. The crowd rumbled with approval. "Humans were weak yet dangerous," the official continued. "Their technology grew faster than their wisdom. Their emotions made them unpredictable. They spread like a disease through the stars, claiming worlds that were not theirs. Our ancestors recognized the threat and acted decisively. Not one human remained when they were finished. This was our species' greatest achievement, the act that proved we were worthy to rule." Marcus recorded everything, his modified eyes containing tiny cameras that transmitted data back to the Nemesis. He watched as the crowd of Voidar cheered, celebrating genocide as their defining moment. Later, he slipped into a restricted area of the outpost using access codes stolen from a careless administrator. In a secure archive, he found historical records, actual footage from the final days of humanity's destruction. He watched, stone-faced, as Voidar forces systematically demolished human colonies, hunted survivors, and finally bombarded Earth itself. When Marcus returned to the Nemesis 11 days after departing, his human features already beginning to reassert themselves through patches of painful transformation, he brought with him terabytes of data and a cold certainty about their mission. "They've built everything on our destruction," he reported to the command crew. 500,000 years later, and still they celebrate the day they thought they killed the last of us. Captain Elinor nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on the star map showing the vast Voidar Empire. "Then it's time they learned the truth," she said quietly. "Humanity wasn't destroyed, we were patient." Around the table, the last humans in existence looked at each other, their purpose clearer than ever. The reconnaissance was complete. Now the real work would begin, vengeance or redemption. The command center of the Nemesis hummed with activity as the senior crew gathered around the holographic display. The three-dimensional projection showed the current state of the galaxy, with Voidar-controlled territories highlighted in crimson, a vast empire spanning nearly three-quarters of known space. Captain Alina Walsh studied the map with narrowed eyes. "Show me our assets." Engineer Hassan tapped a series of commands into the console. Blue dots appeared throughout the projection, first a few, then dozens, then hundreds, until thousands of points of light glimmered across the galactic map. "What am I seeing?" Alina asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Our full arsenal, Captain," Hassan replied, her face illuminated by the blue glow. "While we slept, the autonomous factories continued their work for nearly 15,000 years before going dormant to avoid detection. What you're seeing is the complete hidden fleet, not just the ships we have here at our Titan base, but throughout the solar system and beyond." Commander Tanaka leaned forward, his expression one of awe. "How many?" 12,457 primary vessels, Hassan said, and nearly 150,000 autonomous support craft. The factories built them, hid them, and then erased all evidence of their existence. Communications specialist Wright shook his head in disbelief. "I thought we only had the ships here at Titan." "That was the information we were given before stasis," Hassan explained. "A security measure. If any of us had been captured and interrogated, we would have revealed only a small fraction of the true plan." "Where are they all?" asked Dr. Petrov, scanning the countless blue dots scattered across the map. "Everywhere," Hassan said simply. "Buried under the ice of distant moons, hidden in asteroid belts, submerged in gas giants, even disguised as space debris in areas the Voidar consider uninhabitable." Alina absorbed this information, her face unreadable. "Can we control them all?" "With Atlas's help, yes," Hassan confirmed. "Each ship has an AI system designed to coordinate with the others. They've been waiting 500,000 years for our signal." Science Officer Reynolds joined them at the display. "But there's more, Captain. These ships aren't just weapons of war, they're arcs." "Arcs," Alina repeated. Reynolds nodded. "They contain DNA samples of Earth life, plants, animals, even human genetic material, enough to potentially restore what was lost if we wish." A heavy silence fell over the command center. The implication was clear. They weren't just planning revenge. They were carrying the seeds of resurrection. "Show me the Voidar homeworld," Alina ordered after a long moment. The hologram shifted, focusing on a single planet orbiting a blue-white star. Dense urban centers covered much of its surface, with orbital installations forming concentric rings around the world. "Void Prime," Intelligence Officer Marcus said, stepping forward. "Population approximately 45 billion, the heart of their empire and their most sacred site after Earth." "Defenses?" Tanaka asked. "Substantial," Marcus answered. "Orbital platforms, defense fleets, planetary shields, but their technology has stagnated over the last 100,000 years. They've had no real rivals, no need to innovate. Meanwhile, our automated factories continued evolving our weapon systems until they went dormant." "So we can win," Tanaka said, not quite a question. "We can destroy them," Hassan corrected, "completely." Captain Alina stared at the hologram of Void Prime, her fingers brushing against the image of the planet that had birthed humanity's destroyers. "Is that what we should do?" she asked quietly. The others looked at her in surprise. "What do you mean, Captain?" Tanaka asked, confusion evident in his voice. "This is our mission, vengeance for Earth, for all of humanity." "Yes," Alina agreed. "But what form should that vengeance take? Complete annihilation? Does that make us any different from them?" Dr. Petrov stepped closer. "We've had this debate before, Alina, 500,000 years ago before we entered stasis. The decision was made." "By people watching their world burn," Alina countered. "By humans witnessing genocide. We've awakened in a different galaxy. The Voidar of today didn't kill our families. Their ancestors did." Marcus's eyes flashed. "They celebrate that genocide. I saw it with my own eyes. It's the foundation of their civilization." "I'm not suggesting we do nothing," Alina said, raising her hands. I'm asking what victory looks like. Is it the extinction of another species or something else? The command center fell silent as the crew considered her words. Finally, Engineer Hassan spoke. We have options, Captain. The fleet was designed for maximum flexibility. We can strike military targets while sparing civilian populations. We can target their leadership. We can disable rather than destroy. Or we can make them face what they did, Science Officer Reynolds suggested. Force them to confront their history honestly, not as a twisted point of pride. Tanaka shook his head. They killed everyone, Captain, everyone. I know, Alina said softly. I watched Earth fall from the last evacuation ship. I saw my home burn, but I also remember what humans were before the end. Not just victims, but creators, explorers, dreamers. If we only act as destroyers, what are we preserving of humanity besides its worst impulse? Revenge. The debate continued for days. The command crew argued, sometimes heatedly, about the proper course of action. Some, like Tanaka, advocated for complete retribution. Others, like Dr. Petrov, suggested more measured responses. Through it all, Captain Alina listened, weighing each perspective against the memories of the world they had lost and the ideals they hoped to preserve. On the fourth day of deliberations, Atlas interrupted with an urgent alert. Captain, sensors detect a Voidar patrol vessel on an intercept course with one of our dormant fleet ships in the Kuiper belt. Based on their trajectory, they will discover the vessel within 17 hours. Could be coincidence, Specialist Wright suggested. A random patrol. We can't take that chance, Tanaka said. If they discover one ship, they'll search for others. Alina nodded grimly. Prep the Nemesis for immediate departure. We need to reach that sector before they do. The Nemesis departed Titan's shadow under full stealth, its advanced propulsion system leaving no trace as it accelerated to speeds that would have been impossible in humanity's heyday. Even with these advancements, they would barely reach the endangered vessel before the Voidar patrol. What's our plan, Captain? Tanaka asked as they approached the coordinates. Alina's eyes remained fixed on the tactical display. We observe first. If they haven't detected the ship, we let them pass. If they have... She left the sentence unfinished. The Nemesis dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Kuiper belt, its sensors immediately locking onto two vessels. The dormant human ship, disguised as a small, irregular asteroid, and the approaching Voidar patrol cruiser. They're scanning the region, Wright reported from communications. Standard sweep pattern, they don't appear to be focused on our ship specifically. For 2 tense hours, they watched as the Voidar vessel continued its patrol. Just as it seemed the danger would pass, the alien ship suddenly changed course, heading directly toward the disguised human vessel. They've detected something, Hassan said, her voice tight. Some kind of anomaly in their scans. Options, Alina asked. We could remotely detonate the dormant ship, Tanaka suggested. Make it look like a natural asteroid collision or gas pocket explosion. And if they investigate the debris, Alina countered. We have no choice, Captain, Marcus said quietly. If they discover that ship, they'll eventually trace it back to us. Everything we've planned for 500,000 years will be for nothing. Alina stared at the tactical display, her mind racing through possibilities. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. Or we could wake up. Captain, Dr. Petrov questioned. We've been debating how to approach the Voidar, whether to strike from the shadows or reveal ourselves in full force, Alina explained. Perhaps the universe has made that decision for us. She turned to communications. Specialist Wright, prepare a message, broadcast on all frequencies used by the Voidar vessel. What kind of message? Wright asked, fingers poised over his console. A greeting, Alina said simply, from the dead. Minutes later, as the Voidar patrol vessel approached the disguised human ship, they received a transmission in their own language. Attention, Voidar vessel. This is Captain Alina Walsh of the Earth Remnant Fleet. You believe you destroyed us. You celebrate our extinction. You were wrong. We have awakened. We are returning, and we bring judgment with us. The effect was immediate. The Voidar ship came to a complete halt, then began powering up its weapons systems and broadcasting frantic distress calls. "They're panicking," Wright reported, monitoring their communications. "As they should be," Tanaka said with grim satisfaction. Elinor nodded. "Atlas, activate dormant vessel KBP-479, full combat protocols." Before the Voidar could react, the asteroid they had been investigating suddenly shed its camouflage, revealing a sleek human destroyer. Its weapons systems came online, targeting the Voidar patrol ship with devastating precision. "The vessel is requesting instructions, Captain," Atlas reported. Elinor paused, aware that her next command would set the tone for humanity's return. The Voidar had murdered trillions. Their civilization was built on the celebration of genocide. Every instinct demanded retribution. "Disable their engines and communications," she ordered finally. "Then retrieve their historical archives and crew manifests. Leave their life support intact." "Captain," Tanaka questioned. Elinor met his gaze steadily. "They need to live, Commander. They need to tell the others what they saw. Let fear spread through their empire like a virus. Let them know that the ghosts of humanity have returned, and that we could have killed them but chose not to." The human vessel executed its orders flawlessly, crippling the Voidar ship without destroying it. Data was extracted from their computers, providing valuable intelligence about the current state of the Voidar Empire. "What now, Captain?" Hassan asked as they reviewed the captured information. "We've revealed ourselves. They'll mobilize every ship they have to hunt us down." "Let them try," Elinor said. "For 500,000 years, they've told themselves stories about how they defeated humanity. Now they'll learn the truth. We are more than they remember. We are more than vengeance." Science Officer Reynolds approached with a data tablet. "Captain, I've reviewed the genetic archives from the Voidar vessel. There's something you need to see." The holographic display shifted to show genetic sequencing data. "What am I looking at?" Elinor asked. "Human DNA," Reynolds answered. "Or rather, traces of it. The Voidar have been incorporating aspects of human genetics into their own population for thousands of generations, likely without even knowing the source." "What are you saying?" Dr. Petrov asked, leaning forward to study the data. "I'm saying that humanity didn't entirely disappear," Reynolds explained. "Our genetic legacy continued, integrated into the very species that tried to destroy us. The Voidar wanted to erase us from existence, but instead, pieces of us literally became part of them." The revelation sent shockwaves through the command crew. The lines between victim and perpetrator, once so clear, had blurred across the vast expanse of time. "There's more," Reynolds continued. "The cultural archives contain fragments of human literature, music, and art, preserved as ancient artifacts of unknown origin. The Voidar study our creations without knowing who made them. They've built philosophical systems based on concepts they believe they invented, concepts we would recognize as distinctly human." Elinor absorbed this information in silence, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. "Gather the command crew, all of them. It's time to make our decision." Hours later, as the full command staff of humanity's remnant assembled in the Nemesis's strategic center, Captain Elinor Walsh stood before them. "For 500,000 years we have waited," she began. "We entered stasis with one purpose, to avenge humanity's destruction. But we have awakened to find a more complex truth. The Voidar tried to erase us, yet we persist, in their genes, in their art, in ideas they believe are their own." She paused, looking at each face in turn. "We have the power to destroy them utterly. We have the right. But is that what humanity should be remembered for? One final act of genocide to answer theirs?" Marcus stepped forward. "I saw how they celebrate our destruction. I witnessed their pride in our extinction." "Yes," Elinor acknowledged. "But they celebrate a lie. We were not destroyed. We are here. And now we have a choice about who we are and what we stand for." She gestured to the galactic map. "We could unleash our fleet and burn their worlds, or we could show them what humanity truly was, not just capable of vengeance, but of justice, of mercy, of creation." The room erupted in debate, passionate arguments from both sides echoing through the chamber. Through it all, Eleanor listened, her decision taking shape as the last humans in existence grappled with their purpose. When silence finally fell, Captain Eleanor Walsh gave the order that would define humanity's legacy. "Atlas," she commanded, "awaken the fleet, all of it. It's time for the galaxy to remember us not just for how we died, but for how we lived, and for what we will become." Throughout the galaxy, hidden within asteroid fields, beneath the ice of distant moons, and disguised among the stars themselves, thousands of ships stirred to life. The remnant of humanity was awakening, not as engines of destruction, but as the bearers of memory, justice, and the promise of renewal. The Voidar Empire was about to face its reckoning, not through extermination, but through the undeniable truth of who they were and who they had tried to destroy. The last humans had waited 500,000 years for this moment, and now it had arrived. Humanity's fleet was rising, and the galaxy would never be the same.